Hey there, my name is Melanie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am the owner of Lost and Found, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can creatively make over or upcycle some of those cool things that you're finding at the thrift store. Before we dive into the video, I do want to invite you to be a Lost and Found subscriber. If you haven't hit that button and subscribed to our channel, then please do. That means so much every time somebody chooses to follow along with us. I appreciate that. But I want to share with you guys just some creative ideas for how you can take what you're finding at the thrift store that, maybe isn't quite your style, maybe doesn't quite fit in with your decor scheme, and some ways that you could change it up a little bit to fit in with what you have. Or if you're an antique booth seller or a craft fair seller, some of the stuff that you're finding at the thrift stores that you could change up a little bit, increase the price on, and sell in your booth space. So if you're ready to go, let's dive into the video. Our first project, we are going to upcycle this glass vase that I found at the thrift store. I paid under $1 for it and saw this actually pretty cool idea online of a Pottery barn vase that has kind of this dipped paint look. But look at the price, you guys, $159. So I think that we can take a little bit of paint and we can get that same look ourselves. So I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint. And then just some masking tape. Painter's tape would have been better, but honestly, I was out, and I'm a big proponent of just using what you have on hand. So the masking tape worked fine, and then after I cleaned off the jar, I painted on a light coat of Fusion Mineral Paint. This color is called Blue Pine. Just kind of making sure to smooth it out around the jar. Fusion always does best when you paint in thin coats, so whenever I'm using it, I don't ever try to get it all done in one coat. You don't have to rush it. Just paint on a thin first coat, let it dry for a little bit, and then usually a second coat takes care of it. And then while the second coat was still wet, that's when I pulled the tape off. That helps to minimize it ripping off any of the dried paint. And once we're done, I staged it with some hydrangeas from my yard, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. Okay, for project 2, we're doing a little bit more paint. This time we're working with some chalk paint that I had on hand, and we're just going to embellish these books. These are some of those Reader's Digest condensed books that you guys see everywhere all the time. This is a color called Deep Lagoon, and just painted it on a thin coat. Again, love that about chalk paint. It's just so easy to use it to transform whatever you're working on. I tried to make sure that I didn't get any paint on the pages, kept those nice and clean. Just a thin coat. Again, it took 2 coats to get the books covered all the way like I wanted to. After they were dry, then I pulled out one of the new transfers that I have from Redesign with Prima. This is the Organic Flora transfer. And I just picked some of the parts of the transfer that I wanted to use to style on these books. I thought that it would be really pretty over that blue background. So when you're working with these, you just kind of trim off what you want. Make sure you keep that wax paper backing on the back so that your transfer doesn't stick to what you don't want it to stick to. Then you peel it off and you press it down on the surface. And then you're going to use the little rubbing stick that they gave you in the package of the transfer, just to rub and kind of burnish the design down onto your surface. Then you just peel off the top, and there it is. Really easy and fun to do. And I like these small transfers because you can just cut and use the parts that you want and kind of make your own design. Oops, there was a little piece that came off there, but no big deal. I covered it up with another piece later. So, you really don't want to stress over these things. Crafting is supposed to be fun, and with these transfers, if you make a little bit of mistake on a spot, you can usually touch it up with some paint or put another piece over it to kind of fix your error. And these small ones are really, really easy to work with, especially if you have never worked with a transfer before. They're a lot easier than kind of the big, gigantic sheets, the ones that come in the tubes. So these are the 6x12 designs. We've got like, gosh, I don't know, probably 30 different ones in the online shop, but I thought this design was really pretty, and it looked so nice with that blue background. So I just kept adding little bits of it around the book until I was happy with the final look. And then to seal the transfers and the chalk paint and to kind of get rid of the haze on the side of them, I just took a bit of some dark antiquing wax. This is an old t-shirt. That's what I used to wax my stuff with. Rub it on, let it sit for a minute, and then you just wipe off your excess. And there you go. It's that easy. For project 3, we're going to do a little bit more painting. You may remember this French provincial nightstand that I found for, I think it was like $19. You guys, it was not in amazing shape, but it's got those great curvy lines and it had the original hardware. So after cleaning it with my TSP alternative, which is the product I always use, I gave it a scuff sanding, and then I did use the Fusion Ultra Grip on the top because the top of this piece, it is laminate. It is not real wood. And so the Ultra Grip helps the Fusion stick to items that are not real wood. So you just paint on a thin coat, let it dry overnight, and then once it's dry, I came back with this pretty color rose water. And I had asked over on my Instagram stories what color I should paint this little piece. I had, I think, 3 or 4 different options, and this pinky rose water was everybody's top pick. And it was a color I hadn't gotten to try yet, so I decided to go with it, and I love how it turned out. By the way, that's my favorite brush to paint with. It's from the Ultimate One collection. I'll link to it if you guys are interested. It's my go-to everyday brush when I'm painting furniture. So 2 coats of that, let it dry nice, put the hardware back on, and it's so pretty now. This project, how about we take a break from painting? We are going to make some candles out of these 2 old cute vintage tins. That white hobnail jar was actually a candle that I had that had broken, so it was not going to be able to burn in that jar. And rather than throwing it out, I decided to scoop all of the wax that was already nice and scented out of that jar, melt it back down, and pour it instead into these 2 vintage tins. Now you guys, I am not a candle making expert. This is the first time I've ever tried to do anything like this. So I went with the double boiler method, grabbed this pot at the thrift store, put in the candle wax that I scooped out, and melted it back down. And then I was able, once it was melted, to fish out any little bits of glass that had fallen in there, and poured it into these great 2 old tins with some wicks that I had bought off Amazon. And the easiest part was that the wax was already scented. It was ready to go. I didn't kind of have to figure that out. And then we're just going to let them dry. Now, unfortunately, I had water tested both of them, and the smaller tin did not hold water, and so I added a layer of silicone to it to try and seal it up, but it was a fail, you guys. It didn't seal it enough, so it did start leaking wax. So that one I had to toss, but the other one turned out just fine, and I love it now in this old buttermint tin. It just looks so cute, you guys, and it smells amazing. This was a planter I got at the thrift store. It says $3.14, but the price was actually 75% off of that. It was just kind of rustic and a little yucky. I peeled off these kind of plasticky parts at the top, and decided just to give it a coat of some fresh, clean white paint. I am using Fusion Mineral Paint again here. Just wanted to have it not quite look so barnwoody, just a little bit cleaner, a little bit brighter. This color is Victorian Lace, which is one of their newer whites, and it's just a great kind of nice, clean white to use. And then I decided I was going to accent it with a little bit of blue. I'm kind of on this blue and white kick right now. So I'm using Willow Bank. And I'm sorry, you guys, this is not the best angle. I apologize. But we're just kind of hand painting on kind of an X design, almost like a fence design on the side of the planter. Now, I will tell you that I have learned hand painting lines like this, it's not as hard as it looks. The key is to kind of move your hand quickly. If you try to go really slow, that's when the lines start to get a little wonky. So practice, move your hand quickly. And you guys, I'm not like a great artist at all. And if I can paint lines and dots on something, then you can for sure paint lines and dots on something too. So I loved that blue and white so much that I decided to kind of repeat it with this project. This is a tray that I got, I think it was $1.99 at Goodwill recently. And we're using that same Fusion Victorian Lace, and we're just going to go a white base on it. And I want to try and kind of mimic the look of a Chinese ginger jar. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's kind of the blue and white chinoiserie pattern. You guys, that is just having a heyday right now. That is a really, really popular look. So I decided it would be kind of fun to maybe recreate that on this tray. So it took 3 coats of the Victorian Lace to get full coverage, and once it was dry, I started drawing out the design. Now I want to share the beautiful watercolor print that I found online that I'm using as inspiration for this. I'm also going to have the link to that in the description so that this artist gets full credit. But the design that I'm drawing on is the Double Happiness Chinese lettering design, and then just some curly cues, some vines. You guys, I promise this stuff is not as hard to paint as you may think it is. And we're using that same pretty Fusion Blue Willow Bank. Another tip when you're doing any sort of hand painting is you want to use the smallest artist brush that you can find. You would be surprised at how big of lines a tiny little brush makes. And so if you want to keep your lines fine, find a tiny, tiny brush. And when you're painting on these curly cues, just again, move your hand quickly. Don't think too much about it. Just little comma strokes, and you can really do some really pretty little designs. Y'all, it's not near as difficult as it may look. So I continued just to work my way around the tray using the pencil design that I had drawn as just kind of a guide, and just really having fun trying to kind of fill in the empty white space. I did go back and add a few little dots and some more comma strokes, and I apologize for the crummy angle, you guys. I know that you really can't see well what I'm doing. Sorry, I'm trying to get better at that. But here's our finished look, and I think that's really a fun little tray now. All right, there we have it. Hey, I would love to hear what projects you really enjoyed. What were some projects that you thought maybe you could do yourself? And also just to remind you guys that, of course, we have the Fusion Mineral Paint and the Redesign with Prima transfers that I used in part of this video. I've got that stuff stocked in my online shop, so if you need those materials, I can help you find them. And then I do want to show you our fun new t-shirts that we just started carrying. I'm wearing one myself. This one says, "Forget about live, laugh, love. Life is about junkin', pickin', and painting." So we've got 2 styles of t-shirts now over in the online store. We've already sold out of 1 color and a couple sizes within the first 24 hours. So we'll be buying more, but they're super soft, comfy, fun to wear. And who doesn't love a great t-shirt? So if you need a good t-shirt, you're a pickin', paintin' thrifter, then head over there and go check those out. The link for those is in the video description. So y'all are amazing. Thank you for taking some time to spend with me today. I'm always honored anytime somebody takes some time out of their day to watch one of my videos. So I hope you were inspired, maybe got those creative juices flowing. Let me know what you think in the comments, and of course, drop us a like if you enjoyed this video. Y'all are awesome. See you again soon.